The stars looked cold and empty in the dark space between worlds. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his warship, watching the strange vessel that floated ahead of them. His yellow eyes studied the human ship with care. It looked different from any ship he had seen before. "Sir, they are sending us a message," said his communication officer. The lizard-like Saurid warrior's voice was nervous. This was their first time meeting humans. "Put it on screen," Vextar ordered. His sharp teeth showed when he spoke. He had fought in many wars across the galaxy. He was not easily scared. But something about these humans made him feel uneasy. The screen lit up. A human face appeared. The creature had smooth pink skin and small eyes. No scales, no claws, no visible weapons. It looked weak compared to the powerful Saurid warriors. "Greetings," the human said with a smile. "I am Captain Do-Hyun Kim of the ship New Soul. Welcome to our space." Vextar was surprised. The humans spoke their language perfectly. Most species needed translation devices for first contact. These humans had learned Galactic Standard on their own. "I am Commander Vextar of the Galactic Coalition," he replied. His voice was deep and rough. "We come in peace to meet your species." Captain Do-Hyun nodded. "We are honored to meet you. Would you like to come aboard our ship? We can talk better in person." The other alien warriors on the bridge looked at each other with worry. Boarding an unknown ship was dangerous. The insect-like Chitauri soldiers clicked their claws nervously. The gas-formed nebulans floated in their containment suits, their colors shifting to show concern. "Is it safe?" asked Zilketh, the Chitauri war leader. Her mandibles moved as she spoke. "We know nothing about these humans." Vextar thought about this. The humans came from what their computers called a Class 3 death world. Only the most dangerous creatures could survive on such planets. Earth had extreme weather, deadly animals, and poisonous plants. Most species would die in hours on such a world. But these humans seemed so calm and friendly. They showed no fear of the alien warship full of armed soldiers. Either they were very brave or very stupid, or maybe they were more dangerous than they looked. "We will go," Vextar decided. "But we go armed and ready." "Of course," Captain Do-Hyun said, still smiling. "Bring your weapons if it makes you feel safer. We understand this is new for all of us." The humans' easy acceptance of their weapons made Vextar even more nervous. Most species would ask visitors to leave weapons behind. These humans did not seem worried about armed aliens on their ship. An hour later, Vextar and his team were ready to board the human vessel. They wore full battle armor and carried plasma rifles. The Chitauri warriors had their razor-sharp claws ready. The Nebulans had their energy weapons charged. They took a small shuttle to the human ship. As they got closer, Vextar could see through the windows. Humans moved inside, going about their daily work. They looked so ordinary and peaceful, but Vextar remembered his military training. The most dangerous enemies often looked harmless. The shuttle docked with the human ship. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. Sweet-smelling air flowed in. It was nothing like the recycled air on their warship. This air smelled alive somehow. Captain Do-Hyun was waiting for them with several other humans. They all wore simple blue uniforms with no armor. Vextar noticed they were all different sizes and shapes. Some were tall, some short. Some had dark hair, some light. But they all had the same calm, friendly look in their eyes. "Welcome aboard the New Soul, Captain," Do-Hyun said. He bowed slightly, which seemed to be a human greeting. "Let me introduce my crew." He pointed to a woman with short black hair. "This is Sumin Park, our cultural liaison. She helps us understand other species better." Sumin stepped forward and also bowed. "We are so happy to meet you," she said. Her voice was soft and warm. "This is a great day for both our peoples." Vextar noticed how the humans moved. They were graceful but strong. Their muscles were hidden under their soft skin, but he could tell they were there. These creatures had evolved to survive on a death world. They might look weak, but they were probably much stronger than they seemed. "Thank you for having us," Vextar replied. He tried to sound friendly, but his voice came out as a growl. "We hope to learn about each other." "Oh, you will learn so much," Suman said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We have prepared something special for you. A traditional, human welcome ceremony." The alien warriors tensed. Ceremonies could be dangerous. Many species used rituals to show their power or test their enemies. Captain Do-hyun nodded. "Yes, we want to honor our new friends properly. We will prepare a real Korean feast for you." Vextar's translator worked on the word feast. It came back as ritual consumption gathering and ceremonial feeding. This sounded ominous. Many warrior cultures used eating ceremonies to show dominance. "That is very kind," Vextar said carefully. "What does this feast involve?" The humans looked at each other and smiled. "Oh, you will see," Captain Do-hyun said. "We will show you the best of human culture, foods from our home world, traditional preparations that have been passed down for thousands of years." Suman clapped her hands together. "It will be wonderful. We will cook all day to make everything perfect. You will taste things you have never imagined." The way she said, "things you have never imagined," made Vextar's scales tingle with worry. On a death world, the food was probably as dangerous as everything else. "We should start preparing right away," said a human man who had just joined them. He was tall and had kind eyes. "I am Jinwoo Lee, the head cook. I cannot wait to show you what we can do." He rubbed his hands together like he was planning something exciting, or something terrible. Vextar could not tell which. "How long will this preparation take?" asked Zilketh. Her insect voice buzzed with nervousness. "Oh, several hours," Jinwoo replied. "Good food takes time. We want everything to be perfect for our honored guests. Several hours of preparation for a meal." This was starting to sound like a major military operation. Vextar wondered what they were getting themselves into, but it was too late to back out now. The humans were already excited about their feast. The alien warriors would have to face whatever these Deathworlders called a traditional welcome ceremony. They just hoped they would survive it. The humans led the alien visitors to a large room near the center of their ship. Captain Do-hyun called it the dining hall, but to Vextar it looked more like a meeting room for war planning. Long metal tables filled the space. The walls were bare and clean. Everything was ready for some kind of ceremony. "Please make yourselves comfortable," Suman said, pointing to chairs along one wall. "You can watch us prepare everything. It will be educational." The alien warriors sat down, keeping their weapons close. They watched as more humans entered the room. Each one carried strange tools and containers. Vextar counted at least 12. Humans all working together like a well-trained military unit. Jinwoo Lee stood in the center and began giving orders. "Yeri, start setting up the cooking stations. Minho, bring out the knives and cutting boards. We need everything ready." A young woman named Yeri Choi moved quickly to arrange several metal devices around the room. They looked like torture equipment. To Vextar, sharp edges gleamed under the lights. Some had chains and hooks hanging from them. "What are those?" Zilketh whispered, her mandibles clicking with fear. "Cooking tools," Suman explained cheerfully. "We use them to prepare the food properly." Minho Kang appeared carrying a large case. He opened it to reveal rows of metal blades of different sizes. Some were long and thin, others were short and curved. All of them looked very, very sharp. "Oh, good," Jinwoo said, examining the blades. "These are perfect, nice and sharp, just the way we need them." He picked up one of the larger knives and tested the edge with his thumb. A drop of red blood appeared on his finger. Instead of being worried, Jinwoo smiled. "Perfect," he said, sucking the blood from his thumb. "Sharp enough to cut through anything." The alien warriors watched in horror as the humans began setting up what looked like a battlefield. They brought out large metal pots that could hold entire bodies. They arranged flames under these pots, creating roaring fires that filled the room with heat. A human woman named Yuna Song sat down at one of the tables with an armload of the sharp blades. She began sharpening them one by one, running a metal tool along each edge. The sound was like fingernails on metal, sharp and threatening. Scrape, 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 Each blade became sharper than the last. "We must have sharp knives for proper cutting," she explained to the aliens, not looking up from her work. "Dull knives are dangerous. They can slip and hurt someone." Vextar wondered what they planned to cut that needed such sharp weapons. On Trau, his homeworld, such blades were used only in battle or for executing prisoners. Another human, Tai Hyung Nam, was working with the flames. He adjusted them until they burned bright blue and orange, hot enough to melt metal. The fire roared like an angry beast. "Good heat," he said, nodding with satisfaction. "This will cook everything perfectly." More humans arrived carrying containers of mysterious liquids. The bottles were different colors, some red like blood, others black like oil, and others clear like poison. They lined them up on the tables like a chemist preparing weapons. "What are in those bottles?" asked Nebulon, one of the gaseous nebulans. His voice came through his suit's speaker, sounding worried. "Oh, these are our sauces and marinades," said a human woman named Soyoung Lim. She held up a bottle of dark red liquid. "This one has been aging for 2 years. The longer it sits, the stronger it gets." She opened the bottle and the smell hit the aliens like a punch. It was sharp and sour and somehow alive. Vextar's eyes watered from the powerful odor. "That is very strong," he managed to say. "Oh, this is nothing," Soyoung laughed. "Wait until you smell the fermented fish sauce. That one has been sitting for 5 years. 5 years of rotting fish." The aliens looked at each other with growing alarm. What kind of creatures ate rotten food on purpose? A young man named Dong Heo entered, carrying several large platters covered with white cloth. He set them on the tables and began uncovering them one by one. The aliens leaned forward to see what was underneath. The first platter revealed what looked like body parts from various creatures. Red meat, white bones, and strange organs were arranged in neat rows. Some pieces were still dripping with unknown fluids. "Fresh ingredients," Dong Hei announced proudly. "We got these from the ship's food stores this morning." The second platter held what appeared to be plant matter, but it was unlike any vegetation the aliens had seen. Some pieces were bright red and looked like they were burning. Others were green and covered with spines like tiny weapons. "Are those plants?" Vextar asked. "Peppers and vegetables," Dong Hei replied. "Some of them are quite spicy. We grow them in our hydroponic gardens." A woman named Seohyun Kim began arranging small bowls around each place setting. She filled them with various substances that bubbled and steamed on their own. Some were thick, like mud. Others were thin and moved like living things. "What are those for?" Silketh asked, pointing at the bowls with a shaking claw. "Condiments," Seohyun explained. "Little extras to make the food taste better. Each person can choose what they like." She pointed to each bowl as she spoke. "This one is fermented bean paste. This one is aged chili sauce. This one has live bacteria cultures for digestion." Live bacteria. They were planning to consume living organisms as part of their meal. The aliens had heard of species that ate their enemies alive, but they had never met any in person. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was directing the preparation of the main dishes. He placed large pieces of meat into metal containers and began pouring various liquids over them. The meat sizzled and steamed as the chemicals soaked in. "We need to tenderize this properly," he explained to his helpers. "The enzymes will break down the muscle fibers completely. By the time we are done, it will fall apart at the slightest touch." Enzymes that dissolved muscle tissue. The humans were using biological warfare agents to prepare their food. Vextar began to understand why Earth was classified as a death world. Even the meals were deadly. Another human, Wanbin Park, was working with what looked like preserved specimens in glass jars. He opened one jar and pulled out something that had been sitting in dark liquid for who knows how long. "Perfect," he said, examining the specimen. "This has been pickling for 6 months, just the right amount of fermentation." The smell that came from the jar was indescribable. It was sour and sharp and somehow wrong. It smelled like death and decay, but the humans seemed to think this was good. A young woman named Gayung Shin began lighting small flames at each place setting. Tiny fires burned on the tables where the aliens would be sitting. "What are those fires for?" Nebulon asked nervously. To keep the food warm while you eat, Gayung replied. Some dishes are best served hot food heated by open flames. The humans were planning to make their guests eat burning food while sitting next to fires. This was starting to sound like a torture ritual. As the humans continued their preparations, the aliens watched in growing horror. These creatures moved with practiced efficiency, like soldiers who had done this many times before. They worked together without speaking, each one knowing exactly what to do. The tools, the flames, the rotting ingredients, the live bacteria, the dissolving enzymes. It all pointed to one terrible conclusion. The humans were not preparing a friendly meal. They were preparing a test, a trial by consumption. The question was, would the alien visitors survive what these Deathworlders called a traditional Korean feast? 3 hours had passed since the humans began their preparation ritual. The dining hall now looked like a shrine to some ancient war god. Steam rose from bubbling pots. Strange smells filled the air. Small flames flickered on every table. The aliens sat in their chairs, afraid to move. Everything is ready, Jinwoo announced with a big smile. His hands were covered in red stains that looked like blood. His apron was dirty with unknown substances, but he looked very happy with his work. Captain Do-hyun entered the room and looked around at the feast his crew had prepared. Wonderful, he said, clapping his hands together. This looks perfect. Our guests are going to love this. He turned to the alien visitors with a warm smile. Please, come sit at the main table. Let us show you the best food from our home world. Vextar stood up slowly, his legs feeling weak. The other aliens followed him to the large table in the center of the room. Each place had multiple plates, bowls, and small fires burning nearby. It looked like an altar ready for sacrifice. Please sit anywhere you like, Suman said, pulling out chairs for them. Make yourselves comfortable. The aliens sat down carefully, keeping their weapons close. They looked at the feast spread before them and tried not to show their fear. The table was covered with dozens of dishes. Some were still bubbling and moving on their own. Others steamed with dangerous-looking vapors. A few seemed to glow with their own inner light. Let me explain what we have prepared for you, Jinwoo said, standing at the head of the table like a general addressing his troops. Each dish represents a different part of Korean culture. He pointed to a large pot in the center of the table. Red liquid bubbled inside like molten lava. This is kimchi jjigae, our traditional soup. The kimchi has been fermenting for 6 months. A human woman named Yoonji Bae lifted the lid of the pot. A cloud of steam escaped, carrying a smell so strong it made the aliens' eyes water. Inside the pot, red and white chunks floated in the boiling liquid like body parts in acid. The fermentation process creates many beneficial bacteria, Yoonji explained cheerfully. They are still alive and active when you eat them. You can feel them working in your stomach. She ladled the bubbling soup into bowls and placed them in front of each alien. The soup continued to bubble even in the bowls as if it were still cooking itself. And this, said a man named Jihan Ryu, pointing to a platter of dark meat, is bulgogi. We marinated it in special enzymes for 12 hours. The enzymes break down all the muscle fibers completely. The meat looked like it had already been partially digested. It was soft and falling apart, dissolving at the edges where the enzymes had done their work. Try some, Jihan encouraged, picking up a piece with metal chopsticks. It is so tender you do not even need to chew it. Pre-digested meat that dissolved in your mouth. The aliens wondered if this was some kind of efficiency improvement, food that was already partially processed by chemicals before consumption. But the real shock came when a young woman named Chaeyoung Lim brought out a plate of what she called live octopus. The tentacles were still moving, writhing around on the plate like angry snakes. This is sanakji, she said proudly. We cut it fresh just minutes ago. The tentacles are still active from nerve reflexes. She picked up one of the moving tentacles with her chopsticks and put it in her mouth. The tentacle wrapped around her tongue, trying to escape, but she chewed and swallowed it with obvious pleasure. Very fresh, she said, licking her lips. The movement means it is still good. The aliens stared in horror as more humans began eating the living creature. The tentacles fought back, wrapping around chopsticks and trying to climb out of mouths. But the humans just laughed and kept eating. "Would you like to try some?" Chae-Young asked, holding out the plate to Commander Vextar. "No, thank you," Vextar managed to say. "Perhaps later." But there was more to come. A man named Sungjai Park brought out small black eggs that looked like they had been cooked in poison. "These are century eggs," he explained. "We preserve them in clay and ash for 100 days, until they turn completely black. The process changes their chemical structure entirely." He cracked one open to show the inside. Instead of normal egg contents, there was a dark green and black mass that smelled like sulfur and death. "The preservation process creates entirely new compounds," Sungjay continued, taking a big bite of the black egg. "Compounds that do not exist in nature, very nutritious. Artificially created chemical compounds that did not exist in nature." The humans were eating synthetic substances that their preservation process had invented. A woman named Myeon An sat down across from the aliens with a small dish of bright red paste. "This is gochujang," she said, "made from peppers that rate very high on the Scoville scale." "What is the Scoville scale?" Silketh asked nervously. "It measures how much pain the peppers cause," Myeon replied casually. "This one is about 50,000 units. That is considered mild for us. A scale that measured pain. The humans had created a scientific measurement for how much their food hurt them, and then they competed to eat the most painful varieties. The really hot peppers can reach over 1 million Scoville units," added a man named Kyung-ho Seo. "Those are fun at parties. 1 million units of pain, consumed for entertainment." The aliens began to understand that humans did not just survive on their death world, they had learned to enjoy the suffering it caused them. But the ultimate revelation came when a woman named Dayan Jun brought out small glasses filled with clear liquid. "This is soju," she announced. "Korean rice wine. It is about 20% alcohol." "Alcohol?" Nebulon asked through his suit speaker. "Ethanol," Dayan clarified. "A poison that affects our nervous system. We drink it to feel relaxed and happy." She raised her glass in a toast. "To new friends," she said, and drank the entire glass in one gulp. The humans were voluntarily poisoning themselves with nerve toxins as part of their celebration. They consumed deadly chemicals to alter their brain function for fun. All around the table, humans were eating and drinking substances that would kill most known species. They consumed living creatures that fought back, chemical compounds that did not exist in nature, bacterial cultures that were still alive, pain-inducing plants measured on scientific scales, and nerve poisons that affected their brains. And they were doing it all with smiles on their faces, laughing and talking like this was the most normal thing in the world. "Please try something," Captain Do-Yun said to the aliens. "You are our honored guests." But the alien warriors sat frozen in their chairs, staring at the feast of horrors before them. They finally understood what it meant to be from a class Duer's death world. These humans did not just survive the deadliest planet in known space. They had turned survival into celebration. They had made their enemies into their food. They had weaponized their own digestive systems, and they called it a traditional family meal. The humans continued eating their deadly feast with obvious joy. They laughed and talked between bites of living creatures and spoonfuls of bacterial cultures. They drank their nerve poison and asked for more. They seemed completely unaware that they were terrifying their alien guests. Commander Vextar watched in fascination and horror as Captain Do-Hyun casually ate a piece of the fermented fish that had been rotting for 5 years. The human's face showed no sign of distress. Instead, he smiled and nodded with appreciation. "This is excellent," Captain Do-Hyun said to Jinwoo. "The fermentation is perfect. Very rich flavor. Rich flavor from 5 years of controlled decay." The aliens were beginning to understand that humans had a very different definition of good food than the rest of the galaxy. "Tell us about your homeworld," Suman said to the aliens while she ate something that was still moving on her chopsticks. "What is your planet like?" "It is peaceful," Vextar replied carefully. "We have controlled weather, stable temperatures, safe plants and animals. That sounds nice, I said Mion, taking another bite of the pain-inducing pepper paste. But maybe a little boring? No challenges to overcome? Challenges to overcome. The humans saw deadly conditions as entertainment. Opportunities. What about your food? Asked Hieri, the young woman who had set up the torture devices earlier. What do you like to eat? We eat safe things, Zilketh replied. Processed nutrients, sterilized proteins, foods that will not harm us. The humans looked at each other, with expressions the aliens could not read. It might have been pity or confusion or disappointment. That sounds very practical, Yunji said politely. But do you ever eat anything just because it tastes good, even if it is a little dangerous? No, Nebulon answered through his suit. We avoid dangerous substances. That is how we stay alive. But being a little bit in danger makes you feel more alive, said Cheyong, who had finished eating the live octopus and was now working on the century eggs. Do you not think so? The aliens did not know how to answer this. In their worlds, danger meant death. In the human world, danger apparently meant dinner. A young man named Jisung Moon sat down at the table with a fresh bottle of the nerve poison. Would you like to try some soju? He asked the aliens. It is very mild, only 20% alcohol. 20% poison is mild? Vextar asked. Oh yes, Jisung laughed. This is nothing. Some of our drinks are 40 or 50% alcohol. Those are for special occasions. Special occasions called for extra poison. The humans celebrated important events by consuming more deadly substances than usual. We have been drinking alcohol for thousands of years, added Daeon, refilling her glass. It is part of our culture. We use it for celebrations, ceremonies, and social bonding. Social bonding through shared poisoning. The humans built relationships by consuming toxins together. But why? Asked Zilketh. Why do you choose to harm yourselves? The humans looked surprised by the question. They had never considered that. Eating dangerous food might be harmful. It is not harm, Mion explained patiently. It is flavor. It is experience. It is life. Besides, added Kyung-ho, our bodies can handle it. We evolved on Earth. We had to become strong to survive. This was the key revelation that hit Commander Vextar like a plasma blast. These humans had not just survived their death world. They had adapted so completely that they no longer recognized danger when they saw it. What would kill other species was just Tuesday dinner for humans. Tell me about Earth, Vextar said, leaning forward. What is it really like? The humans' faces lit up with happiness. They loved talking about their home world. Oh, Earth is beautiful, Suman said, her eyes shining. We have oceans full of salt water that stretches to the horizon, mountains that touch the sky, forests full of life. The weather is wonderful, added Jinwoo. Sometimes we have storms that can destroy entire cities. The winds can reach 300 kilometers per hour. Storms that destroyed cities were considered wonderful weather. And the seasons, continued Borum, a woman who had just joined them at the table. In winter it can be 40 degrees below zero. In summer it can be 50 degrees above. Such variety. Temperature swings of 90 degrees were seen as variety, rather than deadly extremes. What about the animals? Vextar asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Amazing creatures, said Hanbuel, another crew member. We have predators that can run 70 kilometers per hour. Flying hunters with eyesight 8 times better than ours. Ocean dwellers that can crush submarines. They spoke of apex predators like they were favorite pets. And the plants, added Seungwon. Some of them can kill you just by touching them. Others produce toxins that can stop your heart in minutes. Deadly. Plants were discussed with the same fondness as the beautiful oceans. But surely you avoid these dangerous things, Zilketh asked desperately. The humans laughed. Avoid them? We eat them, said Eugen, pointing to the red peppers on the table. We study them. We live with them. They make life interesting. Besides, added Jiwon, a young woman who was drinking the nerve poison like it was water, humans are pretty, dangerous too. We are apex predators on our own world. Apex predators. The aliens had been sitting at a table full of apex predators, watching them eat other apex predators while poisoning themselves for fun. We are very adaptable, Captain Do-yun said proudly. Humans can live almost anywhere on Earth, from frozen poles to burning deserts, from high mountains to deep oceans. We change our environment or we change ourselves. And if we cannot adapt, added Suman, we build tools to help us survive. We are very good at making tools. Tools. The aliens remembered the sharp blades, the controlled fires, the chemical containers. Humans were apex predators who made weapons and called them kitchen equipment. This meal you prepared for us, Vextar said slowly. This is normal food for you? Oh yes, Jinwoo replied. This is comfort food, family food, the kind of meal we make when we want to feel at home. Comfort food. Biological warfare was what humans ate when they wanted to feel safe and loved. We went easy on you since this is your first Korean meal, added Miyeon. We did not want to overwhelm you with too much spice or too many new flavors. They had gone easy. This feast of horrors was the mild version. What would be a difficult meal? Nebulan asked, though he immediately regretted the question. Oh, we could show you some really traditional dishes, Hanbyul said excitedly. Foods that require live preparation, seasonal ingredients that are only safe to eat at certain times, regional specialties that most humans cannot handle, live preparation, seasonal poisons, regional biological weapons that even humans found challenging. The aliens sat in stunned silence as the truth finally became clear. They were not dining with primitive savages from a death world. They were sharing a meal with the most successful apex predators in known galactic history. Creatures, so perfectly adapted to violence and danger that they had turned biological warfare into a dinner party. Beings so evolved beyond normal survival that they consumed toxins for entertainment and called it culture. And the most terrifying part was how normal and friendly they were. They genuinely wanted to share their deadly feast. They offered poison with smiles. They served bacterial warfare with love. These were not monsters. These were humans. And that made them infinitely more dangerous than any monster could ever be. The alien delegation sat in complete silence around the table. Their weapons felt useless now. How do you fight creatures who eat poison for breakfast and consider bacterial warfare to be comfort food? Meanwhile, the humans continued their feast, without any awareness of the terror they had caused. They passed dishes back and forth, recommending their favorite toxins to each other with genuine enthusiasm. Commander Vextar, you have not tried the kimchi yet, Hanbyul said, offering him a bowl of the red bubbling substance. It is really the heart of Korean cuisine. Vextar looked at the fermented vegetables swimming in their bacterial soup. The smell alone was strong enough to strip paint from metal walls. Thank you, but I am not very hungry. Oh, but you must try something, Captain Do-hyun insisted kindly. You are our honored guests. We want you to experience our culture properly. Experience their culture of consuming biological weapons and calling it family tradition. Perhaps something milder, Suman suggested. She pointed to a bowl of what looked like innocent, white rice. This is very simple, just steamed rice. Vextar carefully took a small bite of the rice. It was actually normal food. No bacteria, no toxins, no living creatures trying to escape. He almost cried with relief. Very good, he said honestly. This is safe. The humans smiled at his approval, not understanding that he was praising the food for not trying to kill him. We also have some nice tea, offered Eugen, bringing out a steaming pot. It is made from aged leaves and has a very gentle flavor. Tea sounded harmless enough. Vextar accepted a cup and took a careful sip. It was actually pleasant, warm and soothing, with none of the chemical warfare properties of the other foods. This is caffeine, of course, Eugene added casually. A mild stimulant. It affects your nervous system to keep you alert. Another drug. Even their safest drink was a mind-altering substance. But compared to the nerve poison they called soju, caffeine was practically medicine. The humans began sharing stories about their families and their home planet while they finished eating their dangerous feast. The aliens listened with growing amazement at how casually these creatures described surviving conditions that would kill most galactic species in hours. My grandmother lived to be 98 years old, Seungwon said fondly. She ate kimchi every day of her life. Said it kept her healthy. My father was a fisherman, added Jiwon. He worked in storms that would sink most ships. He always said the dangerous weather made the fish taste better. I grew up in the mountains, Borum shared. The air was so thin that visitors from lower areas could not breathe. But we children ran and played like it was nothing. Each story revealed more about human adaptation. They did not just survive their death world. They thrived in conditions that would be considered uninhabitable by any reasonable species. What about space travel? Zilketh asked. How did you develop technology advanced enough to leave your planet? Oh, that is a funny story. Captain Dohyun laughed. We humans have always been good at building things. When we decided we wanted to explore space, we just figured it out. Just figured it out? Nebulon asked. Well, it took some time, Suman admitted, and many attempts. We lost some brave people learning how to do it safely, but humans are persistent. When we want something, we keep trying until we succeed. They had conquered space travel through trial and error, accepting casualties as a normal part of learning. Most species took centuries to develop safe space travel. Humans had apparently just kept throwing themselves at the problem until they solved it. We are very good at adapting, Jinwoo said, clearing away the empty dishes. If something does not work, we try something else. If that does not work, we try again. Eventually, we find a way. This explained how they had learned galactic standards so quickly. They had probably intercepted communications, studied the language, patterns, and mastered it through pure determination. What happens now? Vextar asked. With our two species meeting each other? Now we become friends, Captain Dohyun said simply. We learn from each other. We trade knowledge and culture. We explore the galaxy together. The alien warriors looked at each other nervously. The idea of humans spreading through the galaxy was both exciting and terrifying. What would happen when these apex predators encountered hostile species? What if we meet enemies out there? Vextar asked carefully. Species that want to fight? The humans looked puzzled by the question. Then, we talk to them, Suman said. We try to understand them, we look for common ground. And if talking does not work? Zilketh pressed. The humans exchanged glances. For the first time during the meal, their expressions became serious. Then we adapt, Captain Dohyun said quietly. We always adapt. The way he said it sent chills through the alien warriors. These creatures had turned their own planet's attempts to kill them into dinner recipes. What would they do to actual enemies? But we prefer peace, Eugen added quickly, sensing the aliens' concern. Fighting is wasteful. It is better to be friends. Much better to share meals together, agreed Hanbyul, raising her cup of nerve. Poison in a toast. Food brings people together. Food that would kill most species, served by creatures who thought bacterial warfare was a sign of friendship. The aliens were beginning to understand that human peace was probably more dangerous than most species' wars. As the evening wound down, the humans began packing up the leftover food. Please, take some of this with you, Seungwon insisted, filling containers with the various toxic substances. Your crew might want to try Korean food. That is very kind, Vextar said weakly, accepting a container of what he was pretty sure was fermented biological warfare. I am sure they will be interested. If you need recipes, just ask, Jinwoo offered. Korean cooking is not difficult once you understand the basics. The basics of Korean cooking apparently included controlled decomposition, live bacterial cultures, and pain measurement scales. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Captain Dohyun walked them to the airlock. This was wonderful, he said sincerely. We hope to do this again soon. Next time, we can show you some of our really traditional dishes. Really traditional? Vextar asked, though he was afraid to know. Oh yes, Captain Dohyun smiled. Dishes our ancestors ate thousands of years ago. Foods that helped humans survive during the hardest times in our history. Foods that helped humans survive planetary disasters. Survival rations that were probably more dangerous than most species' weapons. We look forward to it. Vextar lied politely. As the alien shuttle departed from the human ship, the three species sat in shocked silence. Finally, Zilketh spoke. "What do we tell Command?" she asked. Vextar thought about his report. "How do you explain that you have met a species so dangerous they have weaponized their digestive system? How do you describe creatures so perfectly? Evolved that they eat their planet's biological weapons for comfort food?" "We tell them the truth," he decided. "We have met humanity. They are the most successful apex predators in known galactic history. They have turned survival into an art form, and they want to be our friends." "Is that good or bad?" Nebulon asked. Vextar looked at the container of fermented Korean food in his hands. It was still bubbling slightly, the bacteria inside working away at their mysterious processes. "It is the best possible outcome," he said finally. "These humans are not our enemies. They are our allies. And anyone who tries to fight them is going to learn very quickly why Earth is classified as a Class 3 death world." The shuttle continued through space toward their mothership, carrying 3 very thoughtful alien warriors and 1 container of kimchi that might accidentally start a biological revolution in their food laboratories. Behind them, the human ship, New Soul, continued on its peaceful mission of exploration, its crew completely unaware that they had just established humanity's reputation as the galaxy's friendliest apex predators. A reputation that would serve them well in the challenging times ahead.